You're watching the Urban Debate on Mirror Now. I'm Faye. Good evening and thank you for joining us. There's a very interesting conversation brewing in the state of Karnataka. 9 people have died because private doctors or doctors who work in private clinics and hospitals have been on strike for several days. The High Court has just intervened and asked these doctors to go back to work. They have suspended their protest for now, but the conversation continues. And it's very important to have this conversation across the country at this point, because what the state government has proposed is to amend a bill whereby doctors will have to charge a flat capped fee for all procedures. So every procedure will have a cap and they will have to only charge within that cap, irrespective of the hospital and irrespective of the caliber of the doctor. The government has also proposed an imprisonment that was already part of the existing act, and a very hefty fine for doctors who break that rule, doctors who do not release the body of deceased until the bills are paid, and anyone who is charged and then found guilty of negligence that has caused death. The question that we're asking this evening, is this fair? Or is it unfair to doctors who save our lives? Shrija is standing by right now. She's our reporter in Bangalore who's been tracking this entire process. Shrija, have the doctors gone back to work? And what has been the cost to life so far of this protest?
Well, Faye, as far as the protest is concerned, remember this is just an ongoing strike between the private doctors as well as the Karnataka government. We did, of course, see the entire Karnataka here in Bengaluru as well. Nearly 600 private hospitals had called for strike. We did, of course, see nearly 22,000 doctors coming out in protest, demanding the Karnataka government to, in fact, remove all these contentious clauses as far as the KPME Act is concerned, which is the Karnataka Medical Private Establishment Act. And of course, we do see on one side, on one hand, we see the MLAs bunking the assembly. They do not have time to discuss as far as the act is concerned. On the other hand, we see the private doctors sitting on strike and not getting back to the duty, attending to the patients. And the saddest, the sorry state of affairs, what we see here, 9 lives are lost. Who really is responsible for this? Because when we question the government, all that the health minister could do was apologize in the assembly for the deaths. And we also hear from the doctors. The doctors are saying that why don't we ask the government, Chief Minister of the state, Siddaramaiah, as well as the Health Minister, Ramesh. We need to ask them the question that they are responsible for this death. Is this something that we really waited for? Because according to the doctors, what they're clearly saying, this particular protest did not just come out of the blue. In fact, this has been happening over the last couple of months, and it reached a point where the Karnataka government failed to act on the act. But what we need to question on this particular, as far as the protest is concerned, is, in fact, for the doctors, is the duty less important for them as far as attending to the patients are concerned?
Right. Shrija, I want to understand what the doctors are protesting against. Is this particular bill that is currently tabled and is awaiting discussion, what parts of the bill are of the most deepest contention right now with these doctors? What do they have a problem with?
The bone of contention here is, remember, this particular KPME Act, that is the Karnataka Private Medical Act Establishment Act, is only for the private medical establishments across Karnataka, which means there are nearly 50,000 private medical establishments, which does not include the government hospitals. Now, that is one of their first demands, asking all the government hospitals to be included in this particular ambit. Now, the second point here to be noted is the fees will be capped. All the medical procedures should be displayed on a particular board. Now, this is according to the particular act, and all the fees will be capped. This is something the doctors do not want, because the explanation given by them is they are sourcing equipments from abroad and they keep paying in dollars. So that does not match with the demands or as far as the Karnataka government is concerned. And it also talks about in violation, that is, if any doctors are found guilty or violating any such rules, will be imprisoned, is what clearly this particular clause talks. Now, that is one of the clauses which the doctors want to be removed as far as this act is concerned. And also another point here to be noted is the redressal grievance cell. Now, according to the act, clearly states that the states, that is across Karnataka, all the hospitals need to set up a grievance cell. Now, the doctors do not want that as well.
All right, Shrija from Bangalore there, thank you for joining us with that information. And this is the debate that we're taking forward. While we're happy that the High Court has intervened and asked these doctors to go back to work, the larger question that we still must answer is, does it make sense for the state government, for any state government, for all of our state governments to step in at this point and regulate private hospitals, to ask private hospitals to cap their fees for various procedures, to ask doctors to cap their fees for various procedures, and to make sure that there are punishments or there are implications of negligence that may cause death. The other thing, of course, to consider is that public hospitals or government hospitals are not being brought under this bill. That's one of the demands that doctors are asking for. Joining me on the show, of course, we have a wonderful list of guests. But first, I want to remind our viewers that you can join us on invol.in, where you can leave your comments. And it's on my computer right here. So I can see your comments as soon as you write it on the website. Use your phone, get onto invol.in and leave us a message. You can also text us or call us. Our number is at the bottom of your screen. On the show this evening, Ijaz Ilmi, Dr. Ijaz Ilmi is a medical professional himself. He's also a spokesperson with the BJP. Aishwarya M is a spokesperson for the Karnataka Pradesh Congress Committee. Dr. Ravi Malik, a renowned pediatrician and chairman managing director of Radix Healthcare. He's also the joint secretary of the Indian Medical Association. Commodore G.J. Singh is a prominent citizen voice in Bangalore, and Sriram Khanna is the founder of Consumer Voice. I welcome all of you to this conversation. I'm going to start with opening statements from everyone on our panel, and I'll start with the citizen voices. Mr. Sriram Khanna, do you believe that what the Karnataka government is doing is a good thing, or do you think it will, limit the merit as far as doctors are concerned? Regulate or don't regulate, Mr. Khanna?
Let me say at the outset, I have not read the Karnataka bill, so I am talking out of ignorance. But the issue is of medical malpractice, medical negligence, overcharging, and fleecing patients who come to private hospitals. This is not only peculiar for Karnataka, but it's peculiar for every state of India. In the last 2 decades, the government of India has reduced comparatively the share of the money that is going for medical services. And the result is that the public is forced to go to private hospitals, and entrepreneurs and doctors and technologists have found it fruitful to treat the hospital and the establishment sector as an industry. They invest capital to get return on investment. And today, there are hospitals where if you get sick, you come back right, but you're in debt all your life. You can't afford these costs. The cost of investments of equipment, the cost of medical procedures, the cost of doctors' fees, then all the others. 5-star hotels with room rents more than a 5-star hotel. Is there a limit or not? Is the government of India not responsible for looking after the health of the public? So I don't blame Karnataka government trying to do something. But whether they've done something right or wrong, I can't say. But I think it is an area which needs to be addressed. Medical services, whether they are in government or in private sector, need to be regulated. And there is no regulator today. It's a free market economy. Doctors and establishment and hospitals are making money at the cost of patient welfare. And it pains my heart to say that people are just looking on and smiling.
Well, let me just, for the benefit of our audience as well, who may not be familiar with the bill, this is the Karnataka Private Medical Establishments Bill. And the amendments that have been proposed, the state government, on recommendation of a committee, wants to fix rates for each class of treatment. And different rates may be fixed for different class of private medical establishments, which means there will be a fixed rate for every treatment. In the event of emergencies, private medical hospitals will provide health care and save the life of the patient without insisting on advance payment. That should also be insisted. And there's a list of changes that have been proposed, which I will read out to you. A redressal committee will be formed to look at grievances. Cost of each type of treatment will be fixed in hospital charges. enhancement of monetary penalties for malpractice and overcharging. Sriram Khanna believes that hospitals should be regulated one way or the other. Dr. Ravi Malik, do you agree?
Look, I will like to draw your attention on certain facts. The medical professionals are already under the ambit of lot of laws and forums. There is a consumer forum, there is a civil courts, there are criminal courts, there are state medical councils, there is Indian Medical Council who can not only cancel your registration, and there are criminal courts who can even put the doctor in the jail. Now the apex court, Supreme Court of India, in one of the judgments has said that if we make the professionals fearful, they will not be able to discharge their duty properly. So I don't agree with many points in this bill. If you pose threats on the doctors that they will be prisoned, on one side you are capping the cost on a particular procedure. Now I can tell you that infrastructure of every hospital is different, equipments are different, the quality of medicines are different, and the skill of a doctor is different. So how can the cost be the same? So now the thing is that a medical professional, I must tell you one thing, any doctor who has taken an Hippocratic oath and has come out to serve the humanity, they are not coming there for a strike. If a medical community is going on strike, that too, all of them, 50,000 of them, and there is no divide in it, the government must reconsider all the things, all the points in the amendment bills, because Inspector Raj is not going to control the, it will be very difficult. Definitely, there are so many forums. You can see an aggrieved patient can go to a civil court, criminal court, he can go to medical councils, he can harass the doctor like anything. Now, what is the need of a present bill? That needs to be seen. On the other side, obviously, we all professionals agree that in emergency, immediate treatment should be given. Advances should not be asked from the patient who has come in emergency. Medical ethics should be followed very strictly. And any doctor who is not following the medical ethics, he should be prosecuted. He can be put to jail also. And there are so many sections which can be for medical negligence. There are so many sections. For consumer sections are there. The doctor is already...
Dr. Malik, if I may, where is the Hippocratic oath that you're talking about, where doctors promise to save lives first and foremost before anything else, when we actually have governments having to remind these doctors or hospitals, don't ask for an advance, save the life first. And this is obviously happening because, I mean, this reminder is coming from the government because there are doctors who are demanding, or there are hospitals who demand massive advance payments before they will touch a patient, which is completely against the oath that you mentioned.
You are absolutely right. That is what I am saying, that it is absolutely wrong if any doctor is asking. And I must tell you, the doctor can be prosecuted if any patient who is coming in emergency and is delaying the treatment by asking the advances and this thing, this comes in the ambient of medical negligence, and that doctor can be prosecuted and can be put to jail also. What I am trying to tell you is there are so many laws which are on the head of the doctor or a professional or the hospital that I don't see any need for any other law to be imposed on them, and I think that is the only reason that why so many professionals have gone for the strike. And the apex court has also observed this thing, that if a professional becomes fearful, it will be difficult for him to discharge his duty.
Aishwarya, I am spokesperson of the Karnataka Congress. The doctors seem to think that you're being unfair, and in the meantime, 9 people have died because of this strike, Aishwarya. What is the government's defense on the fact that people have lost lives? And secondly, why aren't government hospitals coming under this bill?
First of all, I think that the medical community has jumped the gun on this issue because the bill has not been passed. It is a draft bill which was supposed to come up for discussion and has not been listed for business. So what they have done is that they've preempted the possibility of a negative outcome for their community, and they have basically taken to this strike, which is something that is very unfortunate, which has resulted in the death of people. We believe that no bill is set in stone. There is a consultative process that has happened. Once it is listed, it can be sent to a select committee majority, and which is what has happened, which is why doctors gave in their representations. However, before it could come in, be discussed, or even amended, or even called for amendments, we see that the medical professionals have decided to take on a strike. This morning, if you have noticed, the CM of Karnataka approached doctors in Belagavi saying, let us discuss, it is a democratic process, let us talk about it in order to understand how we can fix this situation. However, what they have done is something that is reckless, and with the medical profession being one of something of an essential service and a welfare service as well, what they have done is quite unfortunate. We believe that talks are essential, nothing is final. However, also on the concept of why public hospitals do not come under the ambit of this, the majority of the Act talks about costing. Public hospitals at the end of the day are regulated and paid for by the state, whereas we don't have, and the state is the primary.
No, but let me Aishwarya, the problem here, if I may, is that public negligence and malpractice and the withholding of dead bodies of relatives and of loved ones until bills are paid, until bribes are paid. A lot of this happens in government hospitals. So why are we enforcing the rules of penalties and jail terms and monetary penalties on private doctors and not on public sector doctors? Isn't that unfair?
Ma'am, very honestly, the burden on the common man who does want to avail services in a private hospital is much higher. And also there is a context to this Act. The Act is not new. What we have seen now is an amendment bill of a 2007 Act which was passed after reports of massive malpractices. For example, in Kalburgi, you had masses of women being forced to have a hysterectomy when it wasn't even a required procedure, because at some point a doctor had to peg down a certain number of cases in a certain given point of time. Private hospitals do have the problems, and the Vikramjit Sen committee report has acknowledged it. However, we believe cost is the biggest problem in this. Public hospitals do not have the same problem because the government funds it, whereas in private medical institutions, there is a corporatization which needs to be stopped, which is why we're regulating it.
I disagree with you in the sense that when we talk about malpractice and other sort of activities, they do take place in government hospitals as well. But I'm going to bring in Ejaz Ilmi. Dr. Ilmi is representing the BJP on this panel, but he's also a medical doctor himself. Dr. Ilmi, where do you stand on this, on the action taken by the government of Karnataka and the proposal to regulate private hospitals?
Faye, I think I've heard all the speakers before you, so I'll just request you for some time. It is clear that this Act is legally, morally, and ethically flawed in every sense. The amendment that the Karnataka government is trying to impose on the private doctors is by trying to discriminate with them, with the government doctors, try and create a separate class of people and try and fix rates for separate classes. This is discriminatory of Article 14. The Congress spokesperson told about a consultative process. It's an old bill. Yes, it's an old bill. We're talking about the amendment which looks at doctors as criminals. And it obviously, as far as medical negligence is concerned, Dr. Malik was very, very clear that doctors are covered in every aspect. It's very, very clear that this is understood, that you face the law, the criminal courts, the sessions court, the consumer forums, and various other things. So where is the need to look at your own doctors who control 70% of healthcare in the state of Karnataka? And Karnataka is one of the better states in healthcare. It's in the top 5 states. So the guys, the doctors who are extremely hardworking, who are giving that healthcare and giving those numbers and improving the healthcare index of Karnataka are the ones who are being targeted and told that you will be looked at tomorrow after this amendment as criminals and you could be jailed for doing your duties. That is something that the BJP does protest against, and also as an individual, I strongly stand with the private doctors that you cannot look at them as criminals. Don't forget, they work extremely hard, they do a spectacular service. Anybody who's taking fees in excess or otherwise, there are procedures, there are guidelines, there's recourse for patients who feel they are fleeced. But do not paint everybody with the same brush. Do not, it's largely an honorable, noble profession. Don't see doctors as somebody that they could be wannabe criminals and you can label all of them. It's something that the Karnataka government should desist from. Mr. Kumaraswamy has a problem, he goes to Apollo Hospital. Mr. Siddaramaiah has a problem, he'll go to Manipal Hospital. The ministers will go to Malia Hospital. Not many of them will go to Bowring, they won't go to Victoria Hospital. These are the realities. The fact is that you get very, very good healthcare in the private sector. Do not try and tamper it by painting them as criminals.
Okay, so I just want to point out here that the Chief Minister of Karnataka, from the information that we're getting, is having a meeting with the Health Minister right now. He's likely to meet the doctors or representatives of the doctors at 2 o'clock tomorrow. But I have two more people on the panel who haven't spoken yet, and these are citizen voices. Janvi Bhagat joins us right now. जानवी जी, आपका क्या राय है? अभी कर्नाटका गवर्नमेंट का कहना है कि प्राइवेट अस्पतालों को उनकी फ़ीस रेगुलेट करेंगे, कैप करेंगे कि उतने ही फ़ीस चार्ज करना है, हर प्रोसीजर के लिए कैप होगा, और अगर डॉक्टर से मैल प्रैक्टिस या ओवर चार्जिंग या कोई दूसरी गलती करेंगे तो उनको फ़ाइन किया जाएगा और जेल भी हो सकती है। डॉक्टरों का कहना है कि बहुत हार्श है क्योंकि बस प्राइवेट डॉक्टर्स पे ऐसे रूल्स लगा रहे हैं। आपका क्या राय है?
अप्रिशिएट तो करूँगी मैं, बट अगर एज वेल एज जैसे आपने बोला कि गवर्नमेंट डॉक्टर्स के ऊपर भी इसके रूल्स एंड रेगुलेशंस होने चाहिए, क्योंकि लास्ट टाइम आपने देखा यूपी में 72 बच्चे लगभग ऑक्सीजन ना मिलने की वजह से हुए। तो ये गवर्नमेंट हॉस्पिटल की मैनेजमेंट का भी दोष होता है उसमें, तो उन्होंने वो रेगुलेशंस उनके लिए भी लगाने चाहिए। आप अगर देखोगे तो आफ्टर 12th साइंस अगर सीईटी से लेके उसका एक डॉक्टर बनने का जो सफ़र है या फिर एक एमडी डॉक्टर जो बनता है, लगभग आप देखोगे तो 2 या 3 करोड़ तक का उसका खर्चा होता है फॉर पेड सीट्स। पर ईयर आप देखोगे तो 25 या 35 लाख तक तो उनकी फीस होती है। तो कहीं ना कहीं ये हम उन्हें करते हैं प्रोवोक कि आप वो मतलब उतनी फीस आप लो लोगों से, क्योंकि अगर कोई पर्सन 2 या 3 करोड़ का खर्चा करके अगर वो डॉक्टर बन रहा है तो ऑब्वियसली वो कोई समाज सेवा तो नहीं करेंगे, वो जाएंगे ही उस मतलब तरीके से कि वो पब्लिक को फिर वो सर्विस नहीं होती, फिर वो एक पेशा बन जाता है।
I want to also bring in Commodore G.J. Singh. Commodore Singh, the question, and I'm interested to know where you stand on this debate, but we have to also ask the question of merit. Where will the merit or where will the motivation be for doctors to become best at their respective fields or in their respective fields if we're going to cap the money that they can achieve or they can earn?
You see, it has to come from within, because medical profession is not a profession which is secular. It is something which involves certain amount of spiritualism, which involves certain amount of morality in it. Therefore, I would say that this cannot be made, priced. Healing cannot be priced, because human body is very wonderfully and fearfully made. Every human body reacts differently to medicines and it reacts differently to foods. So therefore, for a doctor to make out whether a patient reacts to a medicine in a particular fashion for healing entirely is within his domain. It has to be balanced. We cannot at the same time threaten the doctor, because these jobs are not mechanical at all. These are the jobs which have to be done in a way that you have to study probably the patient on a regular basis as to how is he reacting to various procedures, various medicines, various treatments and things like that. So therefore, first of all, at the same time, I would also bring in the factor of doctors being cut above the level of middle class, cut above the level of mediocrity. It is a noble job. It is not a job which you can ask price the way you feel like. The capping is a must, in my opinion, because there are treatments that are so expensive which are beyond the reach of a common man, which are beyond the reach even well-to-do people, because they charge you in lakhs.
Right,
so doctors has to be guided, has to be probably mentored upon it, that they just cannot ask a price of their choice. And at the same time, I must say that between the government and the doctors, the common man today in Karnataka is being grounded, because there are not 9 deaths. The deaths toll has risen to 20 as per the local information here. I was watching another channel, local channel, and they said 20 people have died. People are going to other places like Hyderabad. They are running away to other states because, they have no way they can
get treatment. Yes. Okay, I'm going to open up. I'm going to open up the panel right now. Now that everybody has had their chance to make their opening statements. These are the interesting questions. Who's going to take responsibility right now for the lives that have lost? Our count at this point says 9 people who have lost their lives in the state of Karnataka because of the strike. The doctors have not gone to work, and whether or not the state government should be regulating. Aishwarya, who's going to take responsibility for the lives that are lost? Right now, we understand also that the assembly is not functioning, that you haven't discussed the bill in assembly. So why allow things to get this bad? Why not, if the chief minister is meeting with the doctors tomorrow, why didn't he meet with the doctors before the bill was tabled?
Honestly, with the statements that have been made by the CM of Karnataka, we have been approaching them to have talks. Also, this morning, the CM himself met a delegation of doctors in Belgavi and requested them to come to the table and let us negotiate about this. However, they continue to protest. I'd like to point out that there's a certain politicization of this issue. If I may remind the audience, 2007, it was during the power sharing agreement between the JDS and the BJP when H.D. Kumaraswamy was Chief Minister and R. Ashok was Health Minister that this bill initially came into being. When the BJP spokesperson first says it's a violation of Article 14, it is not, because there is a reasonable classification which pegs private and public separately. Second of all, you were the ones that came up with it, and the grievance redressal cell is nothing uniquely different. If you look at the Amendment Act, if you look at Section 8, sure, sir. If you look at Section 8 or rather Clause 8 of the proposed amendment bill, it is just a replacement or a substitution of what was called the Local Inspection Committee, which had powers which were similar to the grievance redressal cell. Also, capping costs is not going to be an arbitrary exercise. All over the world, public and private health is regulated to different measures. There is something called a costing.
Aishwarya, I'm going to disagree with you there. I'm going to disagree with you there. But you keep saying that public hospitals have a cap. Let's not forget the bribes that need to be paid. I mean, if you look at the forum called I Paid a Bribe, people are talking about how they have to pay bribes at Victoria Hospital to access their own X-rays, to get their reports, to get a doctor to come and see them. So the fact that you believe that the government believes that public hospitals don't need to be regulated, I'm not buying at all. Mr. Sriram Khanna, you've heard the opening arguments right now. And I've read out the bill to you as well.
If I may clarify, ma'am.
Yes, go ahead. Go ahead, Aishwarya.
To clarify, we're not saying that public hospitals do not have problems. We acknowledge the same thing that the Vikramjit Sen committee has spoken about, that there are inherent problems, institutional problems in all sorts of medical institutions. But however, this should not be an either or, where private hospitals say, I will not be regulated because public hospitals are not being regulated. We think it is a systematic process, where if private hospitals come in today, inevitably public hospitals will have to meet that standard as well, and they're coming in. There is no capping of costs per se in public hospitals, in the sense that the government is the one subsidizing it. Private hospitals have a larger cost burden that is transferred onto the patients, which is what we want to try and seek and redress. And obviously, at the end of it, we are going to take the largest stakeholder besides the citizenry into account, which is the medical practitioners, and we do want to have a resolution to this, which is obviously beneficial to all the stakeholders in this situation.
Right, we have a couple of people on the phone line right now. Dr. Thomas Matthew has called in from Kottayam in Kerala. Dr. Matthew, go ahead.
Yeah. See, can I talk?
Yes, go ahead. We can hear you.
Yeah. One issue completely the discussing people have missed actually. Karnataka was the first state to actually privatize the education, privatize medical education. When the students are being charged through their nose 3 to 5 crores for a post-graduation fee. And when this was being done, nobody was really opposing these ideas. Now the society is getting back what you give to what you doing, you are getting it back now. How do you expect the doctors to actually, a person who charges no merit, you are discussing merits some time back. Where is the merit? Where is the merit here? You are making people charge through their nose 3 to 5 crores. Just check how many doctors are made there with merit, and how many are have come through the 3 to 5 crore quotas. Now, if you expect a doctor to work for peanuts after he pays almost 5 crore to get a post-graduation seat, and now Karnataka was exactly the first state which started all this business process in medical education. Now you are expecting, now the things are coming back to you now. It's coming back. The society gets what it deserves actually. The government.
So if you're going to, that's a very fair point. If you're going to regulate what the doctors can earn, you must also regulate what that education is going to cost them. Dr. Vinay Dakape is on the phone line as well. Dr. Vinay, go ahead.
Yeah, madam. My question is to Mr. Sriram and Aishwarya.
Yes.
Miss, I want to ask why the doctors are only forced to cap their fees. Why not engineers? Why not lawyers? They are charging the fees according to their skills. Then next question is, madam, the government. Why the government should improve the services in the government hospitals so that the people who cannot afford the private hospitals, they will go to the government hospitals. And majority of the medical services, they are shared by the private hospitals. And when the politicians, they feel ill, why they don't go to the government-run hospitals, and why they go to majority of the private hospitals like bigger hospitals?
Yes, and some of them also fly overseas. But Dr. Ravi Malik has a point to make. Dr. Ravi Malik, on the point of the cost of education of doctors, go ahead.
Look, first of all, I will like to mention that now in India, we have a quality medical services in the private sector, which is almost equivalent to any international hospital. People are getting liver transplants done, they are getting kidney transplants done, and they are coming from the foreign countries. Now, to give that kind of a quality treatment, you know what is the cost of an MRI machine? I will like to ask, madam, do you know the cost of the CT scan machine? Do you know what is the cost of the infrastructure which the hospitals are maintaining? Now, if we are trying to cap everything under one rate, what is going to happen is that if the cost is not being met for the infrastructure, then the quality will definitely decrease. And moreover, are they going to cap the cost of every restaurant, that chapati will be available at one cost only, or every lawyer, whatever is his capability, that they are going to cap the fees of a lawyer for a particular case? Like that, for a divorce case, you can have only this much. For a marriage this act, you can have only this much fees. Are they going to cap for the CAs also? I do not agree with this thing. And one thing I must tell you, that if any doctor is fleecing money by getting unnecessary tests done, supposingly MRI is not required, I am getting the MRI done, then there are forums available where the doctor can be harassed and can be punished also. You can go to your medical council and say that why this doctor has got this test done when it was not required. So there are so many forums already there, and I agree with the doctors. Obviously, it is an indefensible situation. I will not like to defend for their strike, because for us, the lives of the patient is most important. But I must tell that this is a wrong thing which is happening, and we must review it. Are they going to put a cap on everything? And why this kind of a stepmotherly treatment, that the government hospitals are taken out of this ambient? So it is really disturbing as a professional. And personally, I must tell you, my son is a doctor. He thought that he is not going to pursue the medical this thing, and I encourage. You know what is going to happen is that the talent, the medical talent which is there, people are going to shut down their small institutes. The small private hospitals are going to shut down for that matter. And moreover, many of the doctors might choose to go to some other profession. So why this kind of an Inspector Raj is being imposed upon the doctors when there are already so many forums? You tell me a problem where you have a problem of, is it a problem of money fleecing? You can go to medical council. Is it a problem of a medical negligence death? You go to the police station and an FIR will be lodged again, under section 304A. Everything is available. Yes. You go to consumer court for any,
that the gentleman is
with
making,
a drop of it, you can go to consumer court.
Yes, Dr. Malik is making that argument. Shriram Khanna, respond.
The argument that is being made is quite, the argument is quite convincing, but the facts are contrary to the argument. I want to ask, in this country, how many doctors have been sent to jail in the last 5 years for all the offences that are supposed to be covered under the law. Let me tell you, not a single doctor has gone to jail, number one. In consumer courts, people are going. But who are the people?
I don't agree with you.
9 out of 10 people are losing cases.
I don't agree with
because
you.
no doctor is willing to give evidence against another doctor. Then we have the situation of one poor man goes to a private hospital. He comes out after treatment and for the rest of his life he's under debt. He cannot pay the bills. The price is not affordable, and it's the job of any government to provide affordable medical services. And I agree that you cannot discriminate between public hospitals and private hospitals. You have identical treatments for them, identical caps for them. I have no problem. You know, the last strike I heard of was in Rajasthan, where government hospital doctors went on strike because family of patients beat up some doctors and police could not protect them. So this is not new. The medical profession is on fire. If you think it is not, please open your eyes and smell the coffee. In one state or the other, somewhere people are dying, somewhere there are strikes, other places people are being looted, and there is no one. On the question of price, let me tell you, CGHS has capped treatments for every treatment, the price is capped. And private hospitals are serving CGHS. If there can be a capping by CGHS in private hospitals, why not in Karnataka hospitals? I want to understand. The caps are already there of the central government. CGHS scheme is applicable in private hospitals. People covered by government go to private hospitals.
Are you going to cap the prices of the other professionals also?
No, it is not a question of capping.
We are talking about affordable medical services. We are talking about affordable medical services. And there is a need to put a price cap. I'm not saying that quality should be compromised. I'm not saying you create conditions which will create problems. But I'm saying there has to be a cap. You can't leave it to the whims and fancies of doctors.
But okay, so I want to bring in another angle here to the conversation that is being made, and that is the quality of public healthcare. Our public hospitals are in such bad and such poor quality that the average Indian who should be accessing public healthcare is forced to access private healthcare. So technically then you have a situation where people cannot afford healthcare because the healthcare that is, or the hospital that should be accessible is just simply not usable. Commodore GJ Singh, you would of course have defense hospitals that are accessible to you, but could you imagine anyone in your friends or family or your public or your social circle using a government hospital?
You see, I do have experience because the government hospitals, as you rightly said, do not give you a very high quality of treatment. There are some flaws, I would say, but at the same time, you know, the important question here is that the doctors, when they go on strike, the private doctors, they seems to be sending a message, a signal to the Aam Aadmi that they are putting pressure by increasing the deaths of the innocent. You see, we have 9 deaths here. In my, as for my information, they have more. And the deaths are increasing. So this message which is being brought in, the pressure being brought on the government by increasing the, rate of deaths is something which is not digestible. It is something which puts me off. I mean, doctors have, as I earlier said, have to have some ethical sense. They're bound by this, Hippocrates vow, the oath, the covenant. They have to respect that. They have to be practitioners, not only just taking an oath or just taking a vow. They must practice this because, as I earlier said, it is the profession which is above other professions. It cannot be secularized. It is not a secular job.
Right, let me bring in Dr. Ilmi. Let me bring in Dr. Ilmi. Dr. Ilmi, wouldn't you accept all of the cases that we've talked about? People being left out on stretchers, people being made to carry their family members, babies dying by the tens or the hundreds in hospitals. A lot of that happens in government hospitals. So regulation of hospitals, both government and private, is not a bad thing, Dr. Ilmi.
Yeah, but that's exactly what the doctors are saying. He's saying, why are you trying to isolate the private doctors? Why is this amendment not applicable to the government hospitals, where people actually get fleeced, where bribery is the order of the day, where you need to go to a MLA or a minister to get a letter of recommendation, to get an X-ray preponed, or to get an operation preponed, and now you want doctors to get certificates from the State Pollution Control Board, and you will get mid-level bureaucrats and babus coming and demanding money. So are you going to milk the private practitioners for doing their job and for the excellence and for the achievements that they've done in promoting healthcare and putting Karnataka on the map of medical tourism globally? So these are the things we must understand. And somebody spoke about rooms being charged at 5-star rates. Well, you have wards, you have special rooms, you have deluxe rooms, and you have 5-star rooms. And the hospitals who take land from the government also have to have a EWS quota. They do pro bono work, they work for free for the economically weakest sections, they comply with all the laws. Now you want new laws which look at them
if that was the case, if doctors were complying to all the laws, there would be no need for a bill.
What has happened for the last 1 month? The doctors are reaching out to the government of Karnataka. They've been WhatsApp groups, they've been sending letters, and this process has been going on. Was the government sleeping on this situation? They said, don't get this amendment, don't look at us as criminals. Otherwise, we are fine with the bill.
Aishwarya M., the government of Karnataka, the Chief Minister has just put out a statement saying the bill will only be introduced now after consultation with doctors. Why wasn't the consultation with doctors done before you introduced the bill? Wouldn't we have saved 9 lives? 9 people have died because the government didn't think it was necessary to consult with the doctors?
Ma'am, if I may clarify, this is not the first time a consultative process has come in. For example, there have been representations from various medical institutions, and this has happened twice. If you look into the history of the bill, rather the amendment bill which has come in, the consultative process has happened, because you do see representations from various organizations that have sent it in, evidence of which that we do have, and I will be willing to share it. So this is not the first time that the CM has called them to the table. It has been happening. Obviously, it hasn't gained the same amount of media traction as it has now. So this is not at any point the unresponsive nature of the Karnataka government, because we do prioritize social justice. We do prioritize social welfare. I'd like to clarify something. It is appalling that somebody would come in and say, you spend 5 crore for an education, why don't you charge as much? The medical profession is a noble profession.
No, so then why don't you regulate the education? Why don't you regulate the education? Why are you allowing colleges to charge 5 crore rupees? Why don't you regulate the... I just received numbers saying that after NEET, it comes up to nearly 1 crore rupees over the 4 years.
Karnataka, which has the largest number of private medical colleges...
Why aren't you regulating the colleges first then?
Karnataka also has some of the best public medical institutions all across the state. What we do realize is that there is a necessity of private and public, as it is in education, as it is in the medical sector.
First, regulate them. You should regulate the fees first.
Why aren't you regulating the fees?
I will like to ask Madam, is she going to put a cap? I will ask...
Go ahead, Dr. Malik, go ahead.
Madam, I like to ask you, are you going to cap all the professional services, all the restaurants, all the hotels, all the professional services? Are you going to cap on every facility? There are so many poor people who are not able to afford justice. There are so many poor people who are not able to afford architects. There are so many poor people who are... Are you going to put a cap on everything? Or it is only the medical profession, that too only the private sector? It is not the government sector also which you are not.
Only doctors for special treatment. This is special treatment for doctors for doing a good job, for improving Karnataka's healthcare. They're being punished by this government.
Aishwarya M., for the Congress, please respond.
I think
I must tell you, by this you are discouraging the brilliant students from coming to the medical profession.
Okay, if I may clarify, first of all, there's unnecessary dramatization of the entire situation. When the first doctor who spoke talks about why not the same as other professions, let's clarify.
If 9 people have died, I don't think we're unnecessarily dramatizing anything. Aishwarya, the question is simply this. Do we run the risk? Yes. Do we run the risk of good, talented doctors leaving the state of Karnataka to go elsewhere, practice elsewhere, because there is no room for their merit here? And
go
secondly,
to private hospitals and not to government hospitals?
Why don't you regulate the fees being charged by private institutions?
There should be a bill that
very simply put,
mandates
everybody
that the Chief
has
Minister
a
and his cabinet
misconception
and the MLAs will only go to government hospitals. Why don't you bring that bill in the first place? Let's get that bill.
Okay.
Let's get a bill.
No, let Aishwarya answer. Aishwarya, go ahead. Aishwarya, go ahead.
The ministers, MLAs across the board, that they should only use government hospitals. Why don't you get that bill in Karnataka? We'll support you.
All right. Very simply put, sir, everybody has come to believe that this capping means one singular cost for every service. No, when the consultative process did happen, a lot of representations were made. There is something called a costing manual that lots of hospitals across the world use. The idea is this. Hospitals of the same sort of infrastructure, the same sort of depreciation of resources and capital goods that have gone in have a certain pricing. Also, there is a demography that they cater to, the region that they're in. So it's not one process across the board. It is something that is individually taken into consideration. And also the bill does propose that everybody comes to the table, sits and determines what the costing is. So this capping of cost is not something that is as draconian as they are talking about. Second, talent will not go anywhere because of the same argument that I have given you, saying that it is something we're obviously going to discuss as well. We're going to take in the medical fraternities' opinions into this. However, talent is something that is not quite obviously not going to go anywhere for the fact that we're still going to ensure that you have a return on investment.
What were you doing all these days when the representations were coming in?
People have died not because of the government.
It's a real
if I may clarify,
these
the people
doctors
have not died.
Doing their jobs. What were you doing all these days when they were speaking to you?
Sir, it was medical negligence on the doctor's part. It wasn't the government that killed them. The government has been trying again and again to come into conversation with them.
You know, on this point, let me bring in a couple of people on the phone line as well. We have doctors calling in. The question is, 9 people have died during the course of the strike. Is this
under Article 14?
Is this the responsibility of the state government that introduced the bill, or is this a responsibility of the doctors who went on strike? Because Aishwarya of the Karnataka Congress says this was negligence on the part of the doctors. Dr. Tushar Patil on the phone line from Bangalore. Dr. Ilmi.
And government sector in the healthcare. You cannot have separate laws. This country is equal for everybody.
Dr. Ilmi, I have Dr. Patil on the phone line right now from Bangalore.
Hello.
Yes, go ahead. Go ahead, doctor.
Hello. Yeah. I want just to clarify one thing that to Mr. G.J. Singh, that he had told that so many people have died because of the doctors on strike. I want to clarify that the emergency services are still running on. So there is as such nothing else that because of doctors on strike, that's why the people are dying. Thus they are politicizing this issue of other deaths, causes of death due to other causes to these things. Secondly, the Congress is capping the fees. They are not capping the fees. Most of the private colleges in the Karnataka are run by the politicians. They are charging exorbitantly on the fees, which are ranging from 20 to 20 lakhs per year to 1 crore per year. Okay, so they are not capping those fees, and they are capping the fees which the doctors are earning after that. Secondly, there are many norms and rules through which a doctor has to run a hospital. For that, he needs economic background and infrastructure.
Let me point out, this is information on deaths that our reporter has sent us. In Titur, a 3-month-old baby has died for the lack of treatment. In Tumkuru, a nursing student died of a cardiac arrest due to delayed treatment. Hubli, 13-year-old Vaishnavi died of suspected dengue at KIMS in Hubli. Belgavi, 8-year-old died for want of treatment. Mudhol, a 39-year-old has died. In Banahati also 2 people have died. So there is a list of cases that has been sent to us of people who've died for the lack of treatment. Dr. Rohit B on the phone line from Mumbai. Dr. Rohit, go ahead. Dr. Rohit, can you hear me?
I'm hearing.
Yes, what is
let me be very clear. What decides the prices in these hospitals is the demand and supply. The demand is so high because of our population, and the supply is so less and so scarce that people will exploit all those patients and will extract the money. Now, if the government has many hospitals across the state with best infrastructure and the supply is too much from the government side and give 5-star facilities and 7-star facilities, then I think all these private hospitals, so-called 7-star hospitals, will have to reduce their prices or shut down.
Or shut down. In fact, let me take this question to Aishwarya. Aishwarya, I have this question for you. Mr. Amrish, who is an MLA in Karnataka, flew to Singapore for treatment. Are the government hospitals not good enough for him in Karnataka?
That is obviously I personally do go to a government hospital, however people may or may not believe that. The simple thing is, yes, of course, there was a specialized treatment which they believed was pertinent. Medical treatment is an inherently personal choice. If tomorrow I decide I want to go to a private hospital, so be it. If I want to go to a public hospital, so be it. It's about the trust that comes out of it. You cannot generalize and say just because you're a politician, you will go to that. Let us acknowledge at this point that there are systemic problems with the medical institutions across the board, whether it's government hospitals in Uttar Pradesh or deaths caused.
Why aren't you looking at fixing the problems in the public hospitals, improving the infrastructure in the public hospitals, so that people who cannot afford the so-called 5-star treatment have access to good public hospitals that are not expensive? Right now, there's no such thing as a good public hospital. Public hospitals are atrocious, and people are then forced to pay the 5-star treatment, which tilts that whole demand and supply.
Which is the largest thing, obviously, that an initiative that the government is going to take. However, it should not be an either or. Oh, should we regulate this or that?
It should be about priorities. You need to regulate public hospitals first. You need to fix public healthcare first before you regulate private healthcare. Isn't that true? It's a larger problem. It's a bigger problem. It's a more immediate problem. But you're going at this backwards.
I don't think we're going a step backwards, because first of all, besides the illness, what is the thing? As one of the speakers said, one time in a private hospital can impoverish you. And also there's this whole monetization of the profession, where you see individuals have to clock in these many patients or these many procedures as a doctor in a private hospital, and it is a well-known process. For every instance of corruption where you go to your MLA in a public hospital, you have a private doctor who is talking about these are the number of MRIs that I have to conduct, and you have seen reports all across. The thing that would affect the person most who is ill is the cost of it, because it takes one illness to push someone back into poverty, which is a very well-known saying.
Dr. Ravi Malik, respond to that point as CMD of Radix Healthcare. Do you give your doctors a target?
Madam, yes, definitely. Doctors are already under so much of pressure. As I have told you, even the apex body, Supreme Court, has said that if you make the doctors fearful of prosecuting or putting them in jail, it will be counterproductive, number one. Number two, I will like to ask Madam Aishwarya, Madam, that are you going to put a cap on all the professionals? Are you going to put a cap on all the service providers of your state? Why this treatment only to the private medical institutes or private medical doctors?
Janvi?
First thing, yes.
No, one second. I just want Janvi to make a point. Janvi, go ahead.
Treatment for private doctors.
इन्होंने अभी बोला कि सिर्फ डॉक्टर्स की जो फीस और इसके लिए वो कैप करेंगे, बट व्हाट अबाउट द मेडिसिन्स व्हिच वी परचेस फ्रॉम फार्मेसीज? जैसे कि अगर वो जेनरिक मेडिसिन्स के लिए अगर जाते हैं तो वो काफ़ी सस्ते हैं, तो फिर पब्लिक अगर गवर्नमेंट हॉस्पिटल में भी जाते हैं हम लोग ट्रीटमेंट के लिए, तो वो जो मेडिसिन हमें बाहर से परचेस करने के लिए बोलते हैं, तो उसके बारे में भी इनके पास सॉल्यूशंस क्या है? मतलब अगर हम लोग बाहर से वही मेडिसिन जब परचेस करते हैं तो उस पर भी उन्होंने कंट्रोल करना चाहिए, उसके प्राइजेस पे भी कंट्रोल करना चाहिए. अगर एक इंजेक्शन भी अगर हम लोग बाहर से परचेस करते हैं.
So I have to wrap up this discussion here, but we're going to keep coming back to it, because when doctors go on strike, patients die. The Karnataka government has now turned around and said it will consult with the doctors. One would have hoped that this consultation would have happened before they brought about the bill, and this strike would have been entirely unnecessary then. Hopefully, doctors will go back to work in the state of Karnataka tomorrow, and the deaths that we've been hearing about and reading about will stop immediately. But the question still remains, should governments be regulating fees of private hospitals? Do we actually live in a world where we have to tell doctors through regulation that you need to save a life before you ask for an advance payment, which is what a lot of private hospitals are doing right now? And in that note, doctors perhaps need to introspect on what is happening in their hospitals, that the citizens of the state of Karnataka and across the country from our phone calls today want this sort of regulations brought in. Thanks for watching.